birth. That was completely fabricated. We all know the first interview was for 10 years in Meghan's life, from the age of 5 to 18, more than 10 years.
Royal fans are convinced Meghan Markle is lying about her age. In fact, they think she's older. And not a surprise here because, yeah, she lies a lot about.
So this week, the internet practically combusted after royal biographer Tom Bower dropped a bombshell about Meghan Markle. And no, it's not another publicity meltdown or awkward grin scandal. This time, everyone's losing it over actual age.
For her family, everybody is exposing the lies that she's been telling. And it would only make sense that she might lie about this. It wouldn't be such a big...
Picture this. It's 1997, back when 17 magazine was basically the holy scripture for every fame-obsessed teen girl. Hidden in those glossy pages? A tiny feature on rising stars. And there she is, Meghan Markle, listed as 21. Seems harmless, right? Until you do the math. With her official birth year, 1981, she'd only be 15. So, what happened? Did teenage Meghan just time travel 6 years into the future?
Untrue. She then admits that it was untrue. But her lawyer says Meghan didn't lie. Well, extraordinary how the whole thing is unraveling.
And yet they don't.
Tom Bower wasn't the only one side-eyeing the timeline. Internet sleuths went full CSI mode, diving into dusty archives, ancient yearbooks, and grainy throwback photos. A few even noticed how Meghan's early interviews magically skipped her actual age, steering the spotlight toward her journey and growth. It's almost like she was busy crafting the perfect, prepackaged version of herself long before Hollywood ever came calling.
A slideshow. Let's actually get to the truth of this issue, and it's a surprise. Here we go. So, if you go over on Google, is she lying about her age?
And here's where things start to smell a little shady. 17 magazine? Never issued a correction. Meghan's team? Completely silent. It's like the whole thing got swept neatly under the royal carpet, hoping the world's short memory would do the rest. But thanks to Tom Bower's little bombshell, that dusty old magazine spread is suddenly blowing up all over the internet again.
Of the claims that they have made against the royal family. For example, William being a bully. For example, this idea that
What makes this whole mess extra delicious is how precise that age 21 claim is. It's not some lazy typo. It's printed, polished, and clearly intentional. So now the million-dollar question, was it just a harmless magazine slip-up, or the very first sign of Meghan Markle quietly editing her own story before the world ever learned who she was?
Today. But is this true? There is a rumor she's actually older, so let's examine what's out there. This is a copy of...
Now here's where the plot really thickens. Thomas Markle, Meghan's own father, has been dropping subtle hints for years that certain parts of his daughter's fairy tale backstory just don't line up.
the evidence.
It's always they. They never name them, except...
While the world fawns over the perfectly polished Duchess of Sussex, Thomas Markle remembers a totally different version, the scrappy, headstrong kid running lines with him on set, talking about conquering Hollywood long before she'd even finished high school.
In it, it mentions our Megsy is from Los Angeles and that she was 21 years old at the time of publication. That would make her birth year.
In interviews, Thomas Markle has casually dropped details about Meghan's school years, first jobs, and early acting gigs. But when fans line up his version against her official timeline, the graduation dates, her age when she started acting, even the moment her big break supposedly happened, nothing quite matches. It's almost like two completely different people are narrating the same life story.
Statement on the screen which says Knauf is the liar, not us. And that is the level they've sunk to. But I also think...
And Thomas isn't even trying to stir the pot. He actually sounds confused. At one point, he said, "I remember her starting out much earlier than people say she did." That single line sent the internet into chaos. Fans couldn't help asking, if Meghan's own father recalls a different timeline, then what's the truth behind her story?
succession, 6 hours of lies, they would be absolutely hounded out.
No balance.
Not in their balance, no truth, no criteria. I mean,
It's unsettling, honestly. A father doesn't usually misremember milestones like that. And if Thomas's version is even partly true, it means Meghan has been fine-tuning her life story way longer than anyone suspected. Maybe it wasn't meant to deceive. Maybe it was just about keeping up an image. But still, when your own dad can't line up your timeline, something definitely feels off.
you know, Joseph Goebbels, Hitler's propagandist, would look with real awe.
Once Tom Bauer uncovered that 17 magazine listing and heard Thomas Markle's curious remarks, he didn't just brush it aside. Come on, this is Bauer. The man practically lives for royal contradictions. So, he grabbed his metaphorical shovel and started digging, piecing together every fragment that could possibly explain that mysterious 6-year gap.
Is she 42 years old, or is she closer to 47 years old? In a Newsweek article that looked at this very same question, it looked at what her sister...
Bauer's investigation unearthed something even juicier. Every major milestone Meghan ever flaunted, from graduating Northwestern to snagging her first acting gigs, suddenly started looking suspiciously blurry.
Is they use their friends, their lawyer, academics who have always backed their side of...
The dates just didn't add up. Those early interviews Meghan gave about her career timeline clashed directly with her father's recollections. Even the official royal biography felt a little too perfect, like someone had meticulously airbrushed every rough edge, combing through the story until all the inconvenient details quietly disappeared.
About her age, in her book, Samantha Markle says in the diary of Princess Pushy's sister...
And then comes the Hollywood twist. Bauer notes that in an industry addicted to youth, an actress's age can make or break her chances. So if Meghan was actually older than the story everyone's been told, it doesn't just tweak her narrative, it completely rewrites her rise to fame.
All of those people are stooges. They are plants for Harry and Meghan. I mean, this friend, Lucy Fraser, I think her name is, she's some sort of PR. She's stating as category.
Those roles she supposedly scored right after college might have actually come years later, meaning Meghan was battling a far harsher, youth-obsessed industry than anyone ever imagined.
Who had decided that Harry and Meghan had become too popular, so they had to bring them down. Who has told Lucy that? Harry and Meghan. She hasn't spoken to anyone at the...
Bauer isn't flat out calling anyone a liar, but his findings expose one uncomfortable truth. The puzzle pieces just don't fit. Whether it's a harmless mix-up, a calculated image makeover, or a long-game move to control public perception, the inconsistencies start screaming the moment you connect the dots.
Is that normally in making documentaries, which I did for more than 20 years at BBC, you film someone, that's it. This is all acted.
By the time Bauer connected all the dots, it was obvious this wasn't just some quirky footnote. It was a full-blown crack in Meghan Markle's perfectly polished timeline, one that both fans and critics couldn't keep pretending not to see.
Pause, a little tear. Have you noticed how Meghan cries, but there's never a tear? The makeup is never...
Here's where it gets downright mind-bending. Line up the timelines, and suddenly you're staring at two entirely different versions of Meghan Markle, one polished for the spotlight, and another quietly hiding in the background.
Where is the evidence?
It's always they. They never name them, except they did name Jason Knauf.
Version 1 is the polished, royal-approved record, born August 4th, 1981 in Los Angeles, making Meghan 44 in 2025. It's the age stamped across biographies, interviews, and palace press releases. Clean, consistent, perfectly packaged, the tale of a bright young actress who just happened to meet her prince at the storybook moment.
That statement on the screen which says Knauf is the liar, not us. And that is the level they've sunk to. But I also think...
Then there's version 2, the 1997 magazine listing, boldly stating Meghan was 21. Do the math, and her birth year shifts to around 1975 or 1976, making her closer to 49 or 50 today. And just like that, everything flips. That 6-year gap isn't a tiny mix-up, it's a full-blown rewrite. She would have graduated college sooner, started acting earlier, and stepped into royal life older than anyone ever realized.
A succession, 6 hours of lies, they would be absolutely hounded out.
No balance.
Not in no balance, no truth.
Whatsoever.
No.
This discrepancy isn't just a trivial detail, it completely reshapes Meghan's origin story. Instead of the bright-eyed newcomer bursting into Hollywood in her early 20s, she might have actually been a seasoned pro, grinding through the industry's chaos nearly a decade longer than anyone was ever told.
You know, Joseph Goebbels, Hitler's propagandist, would look with real...
Every milestone, her first auditions, those early on-screen breaks, even the royal wedding itself, suddenly carries a whole new context, one that makes the polished fairy tale look a lot more complicated than anyone imagined.
Oh, shockingly
Sure.
outside of the UK. What they've done very cleverly is they use their friends,
In other words, the Meghan we all thought we knew, the fresh-faced rising star turned fairy tale bride, might just be one chapter of a finely engineered persona. The other version, tucked away in old magazines and forgotten archives, reveals a woman with far more experience, resilience, and mileage than anyone ever guessed. And that's exactly what makes this age mystery so explosive.
to give a balanced picture. It's as if you are watching a balanced documentary, but in fact, all of those people are stooges. They are plants for Harry and Meghan. I mean, this...
Before anyone rolls their eyes and says, age is just a number, let's get real, in Hollywood, it's practically a currency. Casting directors, agents, studios, they all worship youth. It decides who lands the lead, who gets branded as the next breakout star, and who quietly gets labeled as past their prime.
Cool fact, right? That there were internals, as she calls them, at the palace, who had decided that Harry and Meghan had become too popular, so they had to bring them down. Who?
If Meghan was really 6 years older than the official record claims, her entire career arc flips on its head. That shiny young actress making it big in her mid-20s storyline, landing suits, and skyrocketing to fame might not hold up. Instead, she could have been in her early 30s, grinding through Hollywood's brutal, age-obsessed system while subtly reinventing herself to seem younger, fresher, and infinitely more marketable.
To anyone at the palace.
But you know, what's really extraordinary as well is that normally in making documentaries, which I did for more than 20 years at the BBC, you film someone, that's it.
This isn't vanity, it's survival strategy. Hollywood doesn't just reward youth, it worships it. Experience only counts if it's wrapped in the illusion of freshness. By possibly trimming a few years off her timeline, Meghan's rise looks like a flawless fairy tale, but behind the glitter, it might have been a masterclass in control, calculation, and image engineering.
There's never a tear. The makeup is never smeared. Everything is so rehearsed.
We found that clip of her, didn't she, saying that one of her great talents is that...
Tom Bower's exposé drives that tension straight home. Once the numbers hit the table, the glossy fairy tale branding starts to crack. What fans believed was a charming, organic rise to fame suddenly looks more like a carefully choreographed performance. In this story, age isn't just a background detail, it's the missing puzzle piece that reveals how Meghan engineered a persona sharp enough to conquer both Hollywood and the royal stage.
That man who in the end was abandoned by Meghan for months before the wedding, totally left to his own devices, isolated, really
Thomas Markle's offhand comments about Meghan's timeline suddenly hit a lot harder under the microscope. The dates just don't match, he reportedly told a close friend. It's not what I remember. To casual ears, it might have sounded like bitter rambling, but in truth, it felt more like a father trying to make sense of a past that's been quietly rewritten.
As have I, you go and you speak to the Markles, you get to understand them, but actually you can look at Meghan's...
Thomas Markle never seemed out to publicly shame his daughter. He came across more like a man blindsided by a rewritten reality. Someone quietly trying to reconcile the vivid memories of the little girl he raised with the glossy, tightly managed life story the world has been sold.
Famous appearance before meeting Harry, and she praised Thomas Markle. She said he was a great father who instilled the values in her.
From school years to early auditions, nothing quite aligned. Those once simple milestones now looked strangely inconsistent. For Thomas, it wasn't about numbers on a page, it was a deeper disconnect that rewrote how he understood Meghan's path. And the most revealing part? He never blasted it in the media. He just said it softly, like a man staring at a puzzle whose pieces no longer fit.
Now she's sort of trying to say, oh yeah, he was a good dad, but I actually felt really lonely as a kid.
But I think what is also so terrible is that Harry never went to see the father.
Oh.
And why not? Because Meghan was ashamed of him.
That quiet observation from her own father stands in stark contrast to the spotless, tightly choreographed narrative built by the palace and Meghan's PR machine. While tabloids spin endless theories about her age and ambition-fueled reinventions, his first-hand account offers something far more revealing, a glimpse at tiny cracks beneath all that royalish and Hollywood shine.
And Doria plays a really sinister role in this whole story, because remember, for 10 years in Meghan's life, from the age of 5 to 18, more than 10,
when your own father, the man who watched your first steps and marked every milestone, starts saying the timeline doesn't add up, that's not gossip anymore. That's an insider quietly confirming that something in the story has been tweaked, maybe even rewritten. But, of course, that part never makes the headline.
He says at one stage, I went to every one of Meghan's plays at school. Of course she didn't. She was never there.
No, and also, Thomas Markle paid for the university.
Once that age gap surfaces, a striking pattern starts to take shape. One oddity isn't just a fluke, it's part of a bigger, repeating design. From the 17 magazine listing to the strangely inconsistent medical timelines around her pregnancies, Meghan's life story never quite clicks neatly into place. Even the details surrounding the home, the blackout, all of it seems to blur together. And this, as Tom Bauer points out, isn't the end. Each detail alone might seem harmless, but layer them, and a pattern emerges. Facts bending to fit an image, timelines stretching to suit a narrative, and inconvenient truths quietly swept under royal carpets.
Now, I hear lots of people, I disagree with them, but I hear lots of people saying, oh, what more damage can he do? But I think you think this book could be...
Tom Bauer's investigation lays this pattern bare in excruciating detail. Across old archives, interviews, and official records, the same inconsistencies keep popping up. Even royal aides, speaking off the record, quietly hinted that some of Meghan's key milestones never fully matched the official story.
To sell the book, because there's £20 million at least. Well, I think there's definitely got to be something about Camilla. She's escaped so far. I think there's certainly...
Add Thomas Markle's memories into the mix, and the picture grows even murkier. This isn't just about one outdated magazine printing the wrong age. It's an intricate web of contradictions woven over decades, sketching a portrait of a life meticulously curated and, at moments, subtly rewritten.
Relationship between father and mother. I think there's a lot more about the whole institutions of British government. And I think something of the Queen as well.
The pattern exposes far more than a simple timeline glitch. It suggests a calculated effort to shape public perception. Meghan's story, polished to near perfection, looks seamless on paper, yet under closer scrutiny, the flawless edges start to fray, revealing the careful hands that stitched it together.
1981, not 1976. So, Meghan's own sister corroborates the official date as per Google.
Each inconsistency drops like a breadcrumb, leading straight to questions the Sussex camp has carefully sidestepped. And once you start tracing that trail, it's hard to unsee just how much of Meghan's perfectly managed image might actually rest on shaky, ever-shifting ground.
Against her that's happening. This is false. Here you can see that Samantha is 58 years old, born in 1964. The court documents from Samantha, she confirms there is a 17-year...
Perhaps the most suspicious detail of all is the deafening silence. In both Hollywood and royal circles, small factual errors are usually cleaned up within hours. Publicists leap into action, patching holes before rumors take root. But with Meghan Markle, nothing. 17 magazine never retracted a word. Her team stayed completely mum. Even the palace, master of spin, has kept an uncharacteristic silence, as if pretending the inconsistency simply doesn't exist.
Who's not very good with her right now, and I'm sure would have no problem admitting the truth. They also confirm, Samantha's confirmed it now in legal...
That deafening quiet ends up screaming louder than any press release ever could. The total lack of acknowledgement feels calculated, a deliberate decision to let the contradiction hang in the air unanswered. Instead of facing it head-on, Meghan's camp seems to have chosen silence as armor, keeping the official story pristine while fueling endless speculation. And of course, critics and gossip outlets feast on it, turning that silence into the loudest part of the mystery.
Published California Birth Index, and per the website at thecaliforniabirthindex.org, the California...
It's almost impossible not to see this silence as deliberate. If the age gap were truly meaningless, a quick clarification could have ended the chatter instantly. But instead, that empty space, the complete lack of response, only fans the flames. It practically begs investigators like Tom Bauer to keep digging. When an old magazine blurb turns into a potential scandal, refusing to comment doesn't make it disappear, it turns it into dynamite.
California from 1905 to 1995. CABI was compiled by the California Office of Health.
The lack of denial almost works as its own confirmation, a quiet signal that something deeper might be hiding behind the curtain. In a life choreographed down to the last headline, this kind of silence feels anything but random. And in Meghan Markle's world, unusual is rarely ever accidental.
Of Rachel Meghan Markle, you can see that the official records show she was born in 1981. There it is, August 4th, 1981. Finally, at the...
Years later, even as new scandals steal the spotlight, the age question just won't die. With Tom Bauer's meticulous digging and fresh eyes on Meghan's shifting timeline, the debate is roaring back to life, clouding decades of polished appearances. Was it really just a harmless typo in a 1997 magazine, or a calculated adjustment, a quiet tweak to preserve a youthful Hollywood edge? The truth, it seems, may never fully come up for air.
Describe yourself as Caucasian rather than biracial. Everyone took this document as being real. Well, if you think that, you need to keep the same energy.
What's impossible to deny is the permanence of the evidence. Once those two timelines sit side by side, the gap practically screams. Old documents, archived magazines, and personal memories all leave fingerprints that can't be scrubbed away, no matter how flawlessly Meghan's public image is polished. For someone whose every move is stage-managed and PR controlled to the second, the math tells a story even she can't rewrite. In the ruthless worlds of fame and royalty, age isn't just a number, it's power, leverage, and the backbone of a brand. To outsiders, the age debate might sound petty, but inside the glittering intersection of Hollywood, media, and monarchy, it's anything but. It calls into question authenticity, control, and just how far someone will go to protect a narrative. In the end, the age mystery lingers, a stubborn thread woven through Meghan's carefully constructed life. Uncuttable, unshakable, impossible to ignore.